Hello, myself Ramkrishna here. Basically, we are discussing one of the topic that is city creation. City creation, basically, we are discussing one of the topic that is this file. And this file, basically, I have not given the name. So, one of the person told us, see the diagram, basically. One of the person told us, see this diagram also. So, college degree, this everything, basically, we have discussed. Tracking device, that is must, basically, you have to create. Without that, basically, you can't work. Otherwise, basically, this college will end, basically. So, the group who basically are investing the money, basically, they are supposed to handle this because the group who are into the colleges basically they are doing the job basically they basically can't do anything basically because they are not investing the money. So that basically tracking device you have to create, that is must. So this is basically the management person basically who is handling the controlling the entire all books in this world, that is created from 300 cities that basically we have already discussed. He created management group 1, management group 2, management group 3, that is created from 7 cities, and that is basically created from 7 cities basically, that also basically you can say basically. So that is basically, so that is basically the things basically. So tracking device basically you have to create, otherwise your college will get end basically. So you have to create basically because it might possible that the person basically who was into the 90 percentage, he basically created some new ideas basically, other than the Harvard groups, other than the Oxford group basically. So it might possible that person basically who actually got the idea and basically they might be end also, because that kind of people basically are. So you have to create the tracking device and you have to track the students basically, that is must basically, you have to do it basically. And world is like this, but few colleges basically they basically say that basically yeah he has basically done good stuff basically, so he should get something basically. So that comes to the positive side basically, and negative side is they basically do something bad to that particular person. It might possible that they give HIV AIDS to that person, they basically end his generation, that type of thing also possible basically. So that type of thing basically they do basically. So in this basically we discussed this everything basically. Then basically 7 cities 76 created. Then basically the colleges groups basically created. Then basically colleges groups 2 created, colleges groups 3 created. In this basically colleges group basically 16 colleges groups are there. 16 basically. Then basically we discussed that they created 1 lakh. They basically created, not created basically, they managed the 1 lakh books, 5 lakh books, and in this third group basically they manage the 8 lakh books. So here books management means if anybody person is basically creating the 8 lakh the books basically, they are basically watching that books, and then only basically it gets into the clearance, and then basically it comes to the management side. And this basically one of the person told that Bollywood group basically how they might be managing the stuff basically, that is the very dangerous thing basically, because you have to display in front of the world basically, and if you are not displaying then basically you are responsible whatever things basically is going to happen in this management side basically, because that means the one of the person told that Bollywood groups basically playing very dangerous role basically, but they are getting money also basically. Each people basically if they creates one movie basically they gets 100 crore basically. So they basically, that means one of the person told that the 100 groups basically 100 crore they gets, that means their groups are also basically there. So here basically we can add Bollywood groups also basically in the management side basically. That is basically the colleges also basically. That means one of the person told that there are many colleges of the Bollywood groups also. That also basically you can say. So here things is books basically created, books are verified also. Then basically the books are basically read, books are created for whom basically, the books are basically created for the students, so they read the books. So 1 crore books basically was read, 1 crore student actually read this 1 lakh books, 5 lakh books basically were written by the this 10 crore students, then basically 8 lakh books basically was written by the 20 crore people basically. That is management student, right? Basically here basically we are discussing the management basically, here basically we are discussing the management stuff basically. Then basically students basically read this basically 1 lakh students basically read this many books 22 books, that means each students basically read 18 books, that basically 1 lakh books basically. Here basically 1 lakh books was created, this one books was created, this one books was created. In this basically then 1 lakh students basically came into the picture, 10 crore students, 1 crore, 10 crore and 20 crore. 20 crore read these 18 books, and 22 crore basically read this 10 crore people basically read this 22 books. Then basically the 23 books basically was read by this group basically. Then basically the after reading the books basically they got 90% this got, and this basically everything basically everybody was, they got this many marks. 90 percentage 12 percentage people got 90 percentage basically 20 percentage students basically got the marks basically. So here thing is, after getting the marks basically it connects to this diagram basically, that is this stuff basically. That also we can draw like this basically. So see basically management, one management person, he created three groups. From this three group basically he created one management group basically created 16 colleges, 16 then basically 16 colleges basically connected with they basically create, they basically in this basically the 1 lakh book created, 5 lakh books created, then basically 8 lakh books basically created. Here basically created means they basically don't create, the people basically who creating they basically checks and they basically creates also, that also basically you can say. So books basically created, then basically after creating the books basically the management books are basically created, right? Management books are created for what basically, to for this degree basically, that means the management degree basically you can say. Then basically after degree after books are created, degrees basically are created. Here basically we can add one more stuff basically, degrees of colleges also basically you can say, degrees of the colleges basically, that also you can add here basically. But that basically comes into the colleges basically, so that's why basically I not added here. Then also basically we'll to clear basically stuff we can add this basically. Here also basically you can add, and here also basically you can add. This is created, then basically the students basically got the degree, students got the degree, or basically students basically joined this group, that is the colleges basically. So 18 colleges basically connected with the students, 18 colleges basically connected with these students, and they are basically connected with this many books. So each and every book's responsibilities are of colleges. So this, see the stuff basically. This is done. Then basically 1 lakh student basically read 18 books. This 10 lakh people basically read 22 books. 20 crore people basically read this 23 books. After reading basically they got this many marks, 90 percentage, 80 percentage, 70 percentage, and 65 percentage, and below basically. 90 percentage, how many people basically got? 10 percentage. 90 percentage here basically 12 percentage. 90 percentage here basically 20%. And 60 percentage and below basically 35 percentage people basically, 35 percentage students of the management people basically got. 65 percentage, 33 percentage, and 65 percentage below, that is 20 percentage people basically got the marks basically. And then basically after getting the marks it connects to this diagram. So see the management basically. One of the person told that it's very huge management basically. It's a huge management. This everything basically to create this everything. One of the person told that to use and to create basically which kind of software technology basically might, because this has to be data. Na? This is all. This everything is data basically. That also you can say. This everything is data basically, and that is basically going to connect to environment also one day. So see basically how basically the power company might be managing, how the energy groups basically might be managing, because it's connected to the marks, and marks is directly connecting to this chain basically. That is the data basically. And this basically data is connecting to with one banking project, and this everything basically are connected to like this stuff only basically. So you can just imagine basically the things basically which is created. So one of the person told that yeah, that's very dangerous thing basically you have created. So see the thing basically. This everything is management basically. One of the person told that actually this is the real management stuff basically. I have never seen this type of management. book. This basically I am going to give one management degree, when management file name basically in next video.